In 1982, a new sports car made a name for itself. That name was Nimrod. Beneath its newness, the car carried another, older title, Aston Martin. After a break of 20 years, the British sports car was returning against all the odds to long-distance motor racing. It was to be a brave effort. The story essentially of two men and one fixation, the 24-hour race at Le Mans. In this obscure town in northern France, they first started to race cars over 50 years ago. It was a simple enough concept. The public roads around Le Mans would be fenced off, and the cars would compete for a whole day and a night. Simple as a concept, outrageous in reality. At first, the French ran fastest. Only the tough yet elegant Bentleys could compete. And how they competed, winning 5 times in the 1920s. In the 1950s, the British succeeded again with long, low Jaguars. The Second World War had pushed men and materials to streamlined, dangerous excess.
$300,000 people and more than 100 of Europe's best drivers were at Le Mans. Lights tested, 53 cars got away in the famous 24-hour sports car race.
In 1959, a new team which had vied with the Jaguars and Ferraris throughout the decade achieved their greatest ambition, to win at Le Mans. That team was Aston Martin, and the success was brief, for it was to be more than 20 years before the company would return to Le Mans.
They'd driven 2,700 miles. With them on the lap of honor rode Sterling Moss and David Brown. Good for Aston Martins.
In 1981, after 10 years' struggle to survive financially, Aston Martin found their knight errant. Victor Gauntlet arrived not on a white Charger, but in his own Bentley Speed 6. Gauntlet, who already owned his own oil company, now took up the challenge of Aston Martin. He decided that their salvation lay in a return to the racetrack, and that is where he resolved to take his new company. Deep in the English countryside, Gauntlet found an Aston Martin dealer who shared his ambition. The mechanics at Robin Hamilton's works began to build a car that would have to race Porsche, Ford, and Ferrari. The car that, above all else, would need to survive 24 hours of punishment at Le Mans. The mechanics' first job was to construct the works car, but soon, as Robin Hamilton discovered, they had an order for a second car from a rather special source.
It's been rather ironical that Viscount Down, who is the chairman of the Aston Martin Owners Club, should be our first customer, and also his team manager, Richard Williams, is really a competitor of ours in London. He runs an Aston Martin business.
That business sits humbly beneath the railway arches in Brixton, South London. The mechanics here were the second team who would help to take Aston Martin back into motor racing. As they rebuilt the Nimrod to their own specifications, they were led by a quiet enthusiast, an Aston Martin apprentice since the age of 15, Richard Williams.
You got that car as a brand new car.
Yes.
And then you had the effrontery to strip it right down to absolutely bits and pieces. Why did you do that, and why have you been spending so much time rebuilding it?
Because I think whoever's put it together, and it's no reflection on Robin and his team, we're inevitably going to have different ideas about how to do things, and we have got different ideas, and we put them into our car.
Whose is the better car, then?
I think ours is.
We've known each other a long time, and it would have been difficult to write a script with a better start. We know each other, we know their mechanics. It has been an ideal way of starting off, and we operate with just the right amount of friendly rivalry.
Whatever other contest might develop at Le Mans, the rivalry between Robin Hamilton's works team and Richard Williams' private entry would stay intense. It was to be players and gentlemen. Hamilton's men, who had built both cars, now worked to refine their own factory car. For they both now had a major hurdle to clear, their first ever race at Silverstone.
The Le Mans qualifications state that to be eligible to run at Le Mans, the car must have first run in a World Endurance Championship race elsewhere. We are going to run in a World Championship race, and we're going to finish.
While Robin Hamilton sounded confident, Richard Williams worked dourly on. He was preparing his car for the man who had had the faith to invest in the name of Aston Martin, Lord Down, son of the 10th Viscount Down.
The aim of the race today is to show everybody that Nimrod, Aston Martin Nimrod, is an entirely credible world-class motor car. And if we succeed in doing that, I will be delighted. When we have succeeded in doing that, I will be very pleased.
To survive the endurance race at Silverstone, the cars had to last an apparently puny 6 hours. Yet that in itself is like 3 Grand Prix races strung together. For a car like Hamilton's elegant silver and green Nimrod, it was to prove a punishing race.
Well, the car last lap it came round, it was smoking quite heavily, and he hasn't come round again. So he's been several minutes now, it's not looking very good. Something's obviously gone in the engine. We'll just wait and see if he can get back.
The rules are the same as Le Mans. If the car stops on the track, only the driver may repair it. An understandably shy driver in this case. But there is nothing in the rules to prevent variously anxious, distraught or suicidal mechanics from shouting instructions to him. But the engine had failed, and the works car was out. But Richard Williams' red, white and blue Nimrod was still in the hunt.
We've had no problems at all throughout the day with the Viscount Down car. It's run like clockwork. They have treated the car fairly carefully, and it has given them a very worthwhile result. It's been the first British car home and has finished 6th, which for its first race can't be too bad. Our car suffered one of these infuriating racing failures. The rotor arm broke at Beckett's after 4 hours. But all in all, it's been a very encouraging day for Nimrod. I think the cars have proved that they are capable of doing well. They can certainly survive the distance. And I think between now and the time we leave for France, we'll be concentrating on weight saving, a little bit more aerodynamic work, and a little more work on the engine.
For the bubbling and bumbling enthusiasts of the Bentley Drivers Club, simply getting to Le Mans looked a big enough challenge on its own. They had been invited to bring back the actual winning cars of the 20s to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the race. And celebrate they did, in every available port of call on the way.
For it was at the dance, I was in a trance, 11:30 Saturday night. In my arms I held a world of charms, 11:30 Saturday night. At 8 my fate had just begun. It grew quite late before love had won. Oh, can't you see, she's accepted me, 11:30 Saturday night.
Le Mans itself, meanwhile, is flowering like some odd plant that blossoms for just a few days a year. 500,000 people have invaded, and preparations for the coming 24 hours are racing ahead. The Nimrod workshops have moved to Le Mans. As far as the mechanics are concerned, the view is the same, the inside of that V8 power unit. The furthest trip they've made is to the back end of the transporter to fetch more spares. Here in France, the food is better, but the beer is worse.
Well, I don't think we've left the circuit much before midnight every night we've been here. We've got here to about 8:30, which is late for us. Normally it's a lot earlier than that, but the car's been prepared well at the workshop, so it's too much while we're here. This is what we're hoping for anyway.
Just the 16 hours a day, not really very much.
Well, it's an easy day, that is. Instead of the 24 we've been putting in at the workshop.
No, you don't get to see much, actually. And if it's been like this for the past 50 years, I don't even want to see much of it either. No, it's their main event, but it's not organised particularly well, you know. Space you're allocated is very poor. Facilities are very poor. But you have to make do with what you've got and make sure you've got everything when you come, because otherwise you're struggling. But the atmosphere is good, the weather's always good, and we hope to have a good race.
It was a design done by one of the Aston Martin artists, and it's really representing the sort of helmet that we think an old warrior would have worn. And as Nimrod stands a mighty long-distance warrior or sportsman, we felt it was a rather appropriate one.
How are you feeling at the moment about the whole prospect? Are you enjoying it?
It's the sort of thing you look back on and say you enjoyed. I don't think enjoy is quite the right word. We're very tense, very fraught, excited, full of anticipation. We expect the car to go really well this afternoon, and it has to. We have to show what Nimrod is capable of doing.
See where we are? You're in the lead, so you better watch it.
Well, I shall get lost, so
okay.
You tell me where to go, and then I'll follow you.
As the mechanics and the team managers toil on, so do the Bentley boys, though their problem is simpler. Which way is Le Mans?
And remember what the man said? I want the same position.
Number 12.
Nimrod on earth. Whatever you do keep taking the tablets.
Get out of it.
It's Friday now, the day before the race. The track is quiet, the drivers resting. The works car sports 3 fully professional drivers, Bob Evans, Tiff Needell, and Jeff Lees.
We obviously like to be the fastest of the team, but obviously now and again you get problems with cars, and always you can't be fastest. But they had a smirk on the face here this weekend because they did finish up the quickest. So they're very happy at the moment, but I'm sure when the race comes along, you know, there's 3 professional drivers. It's not going to be long before we're leaving them behind.
How do you feel about that, Tiff?
Well, I mean, we won the first round as well because we got through scrutineering cleanly and they didn't. So we won the first round. But there is a little bit of friendly niggle between the teams. But I mean, there's friendly niggle between every team in the whole race. So you're bound to get it.
In the other car, Ray is shouldering the majority of this responsibility, which has its advantages and probably its disadvantages.
The difference is, I mean, our team is 3 professional drivers being employed to do a job and do a job which everybody knows we can do. And I think the other team is much more the sort of amateur English enthusiasts going to Le Mans.
Lord Down, with his amateurs and gentlemen, returns to the traditional Aston Martin team hotel.
La pendule fait tic-tac, tic-tic. Les oiseaux du lac pic-pac, pic-pic. Glou, glou, glou font tous les dindons. Et la jolie cloche ding-ding-dong. Mais boum, quand notre cœur fait boum, tout avec lui dit boum. Et c'est l'amour qui s'éveille. Boum, il chante Loving Bloom. Au rythme de ce boum qui redit boum à l'oreille.
Lord Down's car will be driven by 1 professional, Ray Mallock, and 2 mature amateurs, Simon Phillips and Mike Salmon.
I think there used to be a lot more atmosphere in the old days when they had the Le Mans Start running across the road. It was tremendous interest for the spectators, and after all, spectators are what motor racing is all about. And it's a terrible shame because of the seatbelt problem that they've done away with that. I don't think the Rolling Start has the atmosphere, it doesn't get the crowds in a state of excitement. It's a pity. Just another one of the 1982 rules of professionalism taking over again. In close cars, they always did wear seatbelts, but people weren't so worried about them. They just either tried to do them up or drove for the first stint with them undone. And then as the cars got much, much faster, I think people were aware that for the first hour and 40 minutes they had to drive with no support, and the seatbelts were very useful to support you in the seat.
It's really a matter of whether motor racing is theatre or whether it's technology or somewhere lurking in between. And as the cars become more complicated, quicker and more capable, by the very nature of it, it's got to move towards more of a bias on the technology and less on the theatre.
It is the 50th anniversary this year, and there is plenty of theatre off the track. Victor Gauntlet brings his own contribution, arriving in his beautiful old Bentley. A remarkable number of the cars that raced and won over those 50 years have been assembled. Even the man who won in 1926 has climbed back behind the wheel for the parade of the previous winners. He's joined by the Bentley owners who've made it at last. The parade was magnificent, but it is not the war. That is about to start. What will it hold for the 55 cars, and in particular for the 2 Aston Martin Nimrods? They have barely 2 years of development. They are competing with the multi-million-pound investment programs of teams like Ford and Porsche. But Robin Hamilton's works entry is here. Lord Down's car has made it too. In 24 hours, they will know whether all their hours of sweat and toil have been worthwhile or wasted. The race will start at 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon and finish 24 hours later. for those that can make it. The cars finally pull away from the grid on a warm-up lap. The next time they cross the line, they will be racing.
The first lap was started. He's got 23 and still got 23 and a half left.
Was 51. Be slow when I'm driving. I'll be worn out if I do that pace in 2 hours.
The cars are lapping in just under 4 minutes. Life settles into a 4-minute pattern. It's gone. Will it come back? Hamilton's car makes its first pit stop. In the pits beside them, their private entry Nimrod is running well too. It's Mike Salmon's turn to drive. The works car is back on the track. Richard Williams gets Lord Downs' car safely away again. It is the drivers now, these gladiators of the space age who control the destiny of Nimrod. Will they coax the extra power from the works Nimrod, or will their uncompromising speed break the car? Will the older men driving the private entry Nimrod treat her gently and successfully, or will they simply be outdriven by the professional competition? Jeff Lees climbs out. He's the works team's star driver. He was last year's Formula 2 champion. Now he drives Formula 1. It is Tiff Needell's first chance to drive the works car. He takes over for the next 2 hours.
It's pretty slippy at the moment. There's quite a bit of oil about. There's also quite a lot of traffic at the moment, but it's running well, the car is.
You very happy? Did you make up many places?
Yes. I was running in 10th place on the road, and we started off in 20th, so we've made quite a few places.
We've done 1 3/4 hours. Our fuel consumption is exactly what we got in practice. Jeff's had a very encouraging stint. We got down to 3:45, which is better than our qualifying practice speed. Temperatures and pressures are fine. Tire wear's good. Very happy indeed. We just hope it hangs on in there.
In the Porsche pits, a different race is being run. There is a world here not so much of gritty endeavor as digital excellence. Computers monitor events. Among the big teams, Money and expertise dominate the expected success. But the Nimrods continue to lap the circuit. Suddenly, there is a problem. Something very serious has happened. The air is alive with it. Robin Hamilton goes to find out. The only man who can tell him is Ray Mallock, the driver of the private entry car.
Well, the wave yellow flags are out, and it's the other Nimrod is written off on the Mulsanne straight. Nose cockpit area perfectly intact, but the rear end is badly damaged and the wheels were askew. I didn't see the driver.
He was 30 seconds overdue, and we saw the pace car go out. So I thought there'd been an accident, and he just slowed down. It's obviously his accident, and all we know at the moment is that he's crashed on Mulsanne and gone into the barrier. It appears that the back end of the car has been quite badly damaged. We don't know any more at the moment. We'll just wait and see.
Yeah, we're going to try and find it. All right, fine.
What do you think it could have been?
Probably a tyre, I think, on the straight. That's what usually lets go. But we'll find out.
The car had lost its back end against the crash barriers of the Mulsanne straight. The gearbox broken away at the tail of the car. But now it's the man and not the mechanical failure that matters. Tiff Needell is out of the car, walking, alive and safe. The works car was out of the 24-hour race after 6 hours of effort and 2 years of unremitting work.
No, you can't see from television. How would you know? He saw something break. Ray was following it.
Well, Tiff's all right, that's the main thing.
Sad day, but the name of the game.
We might be able to get it back, I don't know.
I don't know, when can they get it back?
Yeah, it depends how bent it is, doesn't it?
Well, they'll leave it on the course till tomorrow.
Yeah, but you can fudge it back. It depends how bent it is, doesn't it?
Yeah, but if the rear suspension's gone, we're not going to get it back at all.
No.
One of those things.
How far down Mulsanne were you?
Sort of about 2/3 of the way down.
So you're between Les Sunodier and the King?
I ended up not short of the hill that goes up just before the King. I ended up pretty near the King.
Right.
We just flew one way and I caught it and went the other way and then I caught that, but then I lost it. I had the barrier on the left and then the barrier on the right.
Well done.
The barrier on the left.
You left your stamp on the wall.
Oh,
How bad is the car?
It's not that bad. I mean, most of the first embankment towards the gearbox is at 45 degrees to the engine.
Yeah.
It's hardly touched the rest of the car. It's amazing.
It's a good car.
I just sort of... I mean, it was no impact at all.
Well, real strong cars.
I've often thought what happens when you turn left 200 miles an hour. Now I know.
You have accidents in motor racing. I don't think resignation is the word. I think We were on a relative high because the car was going so well. And I think we're relieved that Tiff is okay. I think our relief is possibly outweighing our disappointment at the fact the car's no longer running. Because to have a driver who we've worked with for some time now have an accident like that is obviously a very worrying experience. He's had a major incident to crash down Mulsanne. He was at about his terminal velocity, so he'd have been pulling over 200 miles an hour. That's quite an occurrence for any driver. That's the important thing. The car does not appear to be badly damaged. The gearbox has been almost twisted off the engine, but forward of the engine, the car seems fine. Unfortunately, we can't repair it in 45 minutes, otherwise we'd be out there doing it now. We don't know what has gone wrong. It is something instantaneous. The most likely thing down Mulsanne is a tyre failure, but at the moment, we don't know.
Amid the sadness and the uncertainty generated by the works car failure, Richard Williams and Lord Down carried on. Driver Simon Phillips has completed another successful tour of duty. He climbs out drenched in sweat, his already slim frame losing pounds during the race. Mike Salmon, 48 years of age and a veteran of Le Mans, climbs in. Lord Down looks on. They are all anxious now, yet they know they are fortunate that they still have a car to drive.
I've got one major complaint. The drink bottle isn't working properly. I also spun once. I've been hearing the other two drivers say how fantastic the road holding was, and I thought I could follow Patrese through Tatre Rouge, and unfortunately the road holding isn't quite that good. However, it restarted on the button, so there was no problem. No, very nice.
The Le Mans night is beginning. The pit stops become routine. The tension becomes a way of life.
Are you at the moment in the race?
Fourth.
Did you expect to be fourth this time?
Hoped. It's a long, long way to go.
What are your feelings about the other car?
Well, it obviously causes a lot of worry because we don't know what broke. Every time it's come in, we've carefully checked, as carefully as you can under these conditions, the rear suspension. We're changing tyres more frequently than we would normally do, and we've done as much as we can do.
I've done the last two stints, which are, 30 laps. Car seems to be very good. A lot of debris on the circuit, a lot of oil, accidents. Cars just gone up in flames, which caused rather a problem at Arnage. But our car seems to be fine, fortunately. I wish there was, every time you ask me that, I can't find any wood to touch, but it is going fine at the minute.
to me, a 24-hour race is a race where you have to hold your breath for 24 hours. I feel as if it's already gone on for a week, and we are actually just over halfway through. I'm still holding my breath, but I think the car's going magnificently, and I'm delighted with the situation at the moment. But having said that, I'm not counting any chickens of any sort yet.
I think it's fine, quite honestly. Ray had warned me that a few bits and pieces were falling off the trees, and one lap there was a branch in the middle of the kink, which gave me a little bit of a moment. Not that I went over it, but I realized that I could easily have done.
It dawns blue and misty, but it brings renewed hope. Richard Williams' team have survived the afternoon and the night. Now it's 7 in the morning. The car is still bravely holding 4th place, but there are still 9 hours of racing ahead.
Retour de la voiture numéro 2, la Porsche en deuxième. Qui porte le sigle de l'Automobile Club de France avec Jean-Marie Lemaire, Max Cohen-Olivard et Castellano. Cette voiture numéro 66 est de Lancia Beta. 3 minutes 47 pour le tour clé par la Porsche numéro 1.
Another routine pit stop, but with it, the first suggestion that the Nimrod is beginning to complain.
But I just can't get the times. I mean, I'm going like a lunatic around the corners, but it just won't produce the times.
The oil consumption is very high now. It's going to be a problem to get to the
Retour
next
de la voiture numéro 38 à Rondeau de Christian Petit.
You put on something thicker?
Pascal Winsner et Bernard de Drever qui
got 11 laps to go before we put some in.
Elle va ravitailler.
Doesn't look as if it's smoking.
No, it does. It goes past just a slight miss.
Il est sûrement encouragé son coéquipier du Paris-Dakar, Jackie.
Robin Hamilton has arrived to check the progress of the other car.
How are you feeling this morning?
I've got very mixed emotions, Paul. I feel like a father whose children have been in a motor accident where one has perished and the other one survived. I'm heartbroken about the one that's gone, and I'm delighted about the one that survived. I woke up this morning feeling very low indeed. But it should have been our car out there with this one. But I'm delighted this one's going. They've got one or two problems, as you know. The oil consumption is becoming quite a critical factor. So we're just hoping that it can last for the remaining 7 hours. But very mixed emotions at the moment.
Every 4 minutes for the past 20 hours, Richard Williams' team have waited and been rewarded. Their car has arrived. They feel they're in the home straight now. They survived the night. Suddenly, just like the other Nimrod, the car has disappeared. It's a desperate moment. The lowest ebb of the 24 hours.
Quant à la Ferrari numéro 72, elle a quitté son stand.
There is a garbled French announcement. Now they all know. Richard Williams, Lord Down, all the mechanics. The car is stranded out on the track, probably beyond repair. The fairy tale, for such it had seemed to be, appears to be over.
Yeah. There's no point, I don't think. If it's stopped.
Touch it.
When you go to race control, they've always told you that they'll tell you the easiest route to get to him wherever he is. Because you're allowed to go and stand there and shout and scream.
All right, well, Neil, will you go to race control with Martin and... they'll go and...
They'll tell you how to get to the car.
Suddenly, like a miracle, the Nimrod reappears. Somehow, against all the odds, the car has limped back. Ray Mallock had got it going again.
The engine had hardly any power at all. It was really struggling round. When we got there.
What happened when you stalled?
The fuel pressure just dropped altogether out of the Porsche curves, and I took the back end of the car up and took the back off because we had a spare pressure relief valve on board. I thought we might have to change that, but I switched on the pumps again to investigate, and suddenly the pressure came back, so I put the back down, put the helmet back on, and crawled back to the pits.
Didn't that one go in between the two? No.
The car is losing power. Richard decides to change the plugs. No result. Open the distributor cap. Part of it is burnt away. Replace it quickly.
Can I have fuel pressure, Michael? Just fuel pressure.
I reckon that's wrong.
Replace the 9 wires that you've removed from the distributor. It's a job these trained mechanics have done 1,000 times. But this is the critical moment of the race. The Porsches in the 3 leading places ahead of them are churning on. Others are filling in behind. Suddenly, they are trying to count 8 cylinders on the fingers of one hand. They know it's foolish, but they just can't get those leads back on in the right order.
Start with number 1. I'm pulling number 4. That's not
It took 27 agonizing minutes, but they got it fixed.
We can now. We just have to hope it goes round and round and round until 4 o'clock. But there's a lot of doubt that it will. It's just luck now. We're doing our best to keep it going. We're using 5,000 revs instead of 6,700. We've done everything we can.
Are you losing places because of your speed?
Oh, absolutely. We were 4th when Ray brought the car in. We're 8th now.
The Aston is clinging on, smoke trailing from its rear end, but it keeps going. The long night, the sudden engine failure, the sheer strain has taken the bounce out of the team. Now they feel they will fail. Each time the car reappears, it seems a minor miracle. Each time it disappears onto another lap, they expect it to stop. The two teams still know that something serious went wrong in the Mulsanne. Could it happen to both Nimrods?
The wisdom of trying to keep it going come what may has been borne out by the fact that despite these further troubles, we've moved up from 9th place to 7th place in the last 10 minutes through other people having even graver misfortunes. So one way and another, we've just got to keep stuck into the last hour, and who knows what will happen. We'll be back in the first 6 again.
We'll have to wait and see. Long time to go yet.
You're going to make it, eh?
Right. Lots of very sad and sick cars out there. 40, we're 40 laps behind the lead car, so we haven't got a lot of chance of catching them up.
C'est la deuxième fois qu'il se au 25 ans.
Go for it!
The last pit stop. Can they keep going? The mighty roar of the Hunter is now rather hoarse. The car is no longer full of torque, just tenacity.
Et la dernière tranche est encore mieux que la descente en plus. C'est vraiment
In the midst of it all, Richard Williams is as phlegmatic as ever. The signal to get back out there on the track is Richard's calmly pointing finger. Whatever the turmoil inside, the man never flickered. The crowd were beginning to size up the scale of the achievement in this Aston's first year back in motor racing. They were cheered back into the pits and cheered back onto the track. It is all now a question of a few minutes, another lap, maybe 2. For Porsche, it is another stunning achievement. 3 of their cars are cruising through to the finish, first, second, and third. So supreme is their confidence after years of winning that they fly the last lap in formation. For Nimrod, there's still another third of the track to complete before it reaches the checkered flag. But Aston Martin Nimrod finished, and finished creditably. 7th at Le Mans in their first attempt with a brand new car. The crowd ran, the champagne flowed, or rather spurted wastefully over them. Bell, Ix and Porsche celebrated extravagantly, as well they might.
I'm just going to test to drop the old valve spark.
Good for you. Yeah.
But a little further down the results, an old name had reappeared. It was not to be an isolated triumph. Lord Downes' Aston Martin Nimrod was to reach 3rd place in the World Sports Car Championships during 1982. But nothing would mean more to the 2 men and their teams who had made it happen than the moment when they crossed the finishing line after 24 hours at Le Mans. Now they knew that next year, Nimrod would be back in the hunt once more.